Jonathan Ive is Apple's design chief, but he's been much more than that. He was Steve Jobs' spiritual partner at Apple, the man who helped him turn that company around from certain doom into the most successful company in the history of capitalism, arguably. Ive designed many of Apple's iconic products, from their first iMac to the iPod, the iPhone, and iPad. But this shy Brit has also helped change the world in ways people don't really realize. He mainstreamed new materials, starting with the iMac in the late 90s, which had translucent, colorful plastics and became a huge trend in product design. At the time, Steve Jobs said it was a computer so good you wanted to lick it. And every few years, he begins experimenting with new types of materials. And those materials make their way into Apple products, and then they get copied and end up in all sorts of places. He made design a non-negotiable. He helped turn the idea of design into a core principle of doing business. If you look at the iPod, I think that's the essential product where the company's history started to turn and its story about design started to really become believable. Companies now think about design the way they used to think about cost and profit margin. And a large part of that is due to Ive and Apple. He transformed what people think a computer is. With the iPhone and the iPad in particular, which have enormous amounts of computing power that you can have with you in bed or on the subway or on the street, the computer has ceased to be this object you use on your desk and has become something that's a part of our lives all the time. He streamlined how you use software. In recent years, Ive went from being responsible for just Apple's physical products, but also the way its software looks and feels. He's a huge proponent of what's called flat design. Apple's mobile operating system, iOS 7, is the latest example of this flat design trend, in which objects don't look like their real-world counterparts, but are simpler and more intuitive. Things look the way they function rather than mimicking the real world. And more simply, I've helped make the world around you easier to live in. His focus and Apple's focus on simplicity, on taking away the things you don't need and only leaving you with the absolute most basic and necessary objects to interact with, has impacted products ranging from smart thermostats to vacuum cleaners, toothbrushes, anything you can think of. There are industrial designers out there thinking, what would Jonathan Ive do? And trying to put those ideals into practice. As Apple became the most successful company in the history of capitalism, people started to copy it. And often where they start is with Jonathan Ive.